Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines we got for you today. The G20 coming with global crypto regs. We got that and so much more. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter for exclusive content. Right now, it's $1.05 trillion market cap for cryptocurrency. Bitcoin, 21,600 plus. Ethereum, 1,500 plus. Tether market cap coming in at 68.6 billion. We see XRP at 36 cents now. It's off by 6.3% on the 7-day, ladies and gentlemen. But you know what? We're not stopped by any of this. Look at the strides that Link2 is making in a suppressed market like this. Take a look at this. Passing $193 million in total member investments. Take a listen from Ray Fuentes.
Just processed over 193 million in total member investments across more than 80 countries worldwide. Our global community is investing in world-class private companies available on our platform 24/7, 365. Visit link2.com or click the link in our bio to sign up and join in on the action.
That's what I'm talking about. Shout out to Ray Fuentes and the Link2 fam. Let me tell you something right here. Fireside chat coming up, and you're going to want to register for this. COO Joe Endoso from Link2 is sitting down with Jack McDonald from Polysign, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a remarkable conversation. Remember, Polysign is going to help tokenize the capital markets and then provide custody as well. I mean, look, I've said it a mess of times. You know, the next bull market, I believe, is going to come from real companies using this very real technology that can solve problems. And this, I believe, is going to be one of the winners to come out of it, just like I believe Ripple is as well. Not financial advice. I will be tuning into that. You can count on it. And by the way, $5,000 minimums happening right now until midnight Pacific time. Do not mess around and click that link. They could run out. And that has happened. I've watched it happen a bunch of times. Don't mess around and click that link underneath the video. You got to be accredited. Sam Bankman-Fried is up to it again, ladies and gentlemen. Lawyers say that he's been using a virtual private network, a VPN, to access the internet, U.S. prosecutors have said, potentially prompting further clampdown on his bail conditions. Oh, boy. We are going to follow this all the way through, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to see what's going to happen here to the golden child. There's a lot of big money behind him trying to make sure he doesn't get in trouble. And he doesn't really seem, it would appear, he doesn't have much respect for the law. However, we do have some good news, ladies and gentlemen. Today in crypto, Wirex signs long-term global partnership with Visa, ladies and gentlemen. Bank of Brazil says citizens can pay taxes with crypto. MetaMask warns users about phishing attempts, however. Get your daily bite-sized digest of crypto assets and blockchains-related news from this article. What I can tell you, what I wanted to share with you, if you don't remember, Ripple's partner, Wirex, granted its first license for money transmission. Remember this from back in 2020? Yeah, if you're an OG in the space, see, we love seeing that expansion. And here's none other than Kevin O'Leary, who, when all of this SBF FTX collapse happened, he said he'd invest in him again. But now he's calling for crypto regulations now, and he cites the debacle of FTX.
I get up in the morning and invest in entrepreneurs, but now this FTX hearing that occurred late last year on the Hill has poked the bear, and regulators are now really looking at regulation. You saw Gensler make a move last week against staking. He's on a warpath, and he's backed by a lot of people now, including people like me, who want to see regulation. We want to see some guardrails. I'm tired of going to the Hill for hearings every 6 months for the next crypto company that blows up and goes to zero. Everybody's sick of that. It's now time for regulation.
Well, you can't say it any better, but that is the guy who was saying he would reinvest in SBF, now citing him as the reason we need crypto regulation. Who is this guy? You know, I think Pay Me in Crypto said it best down here. That's what I think. Shout out to him. And listen, no laughing matter, because real people got hurt into that. So I apologize for anybody who got hurt. But it is a mess watching it all unfold, isn't it? Okay, now let's take a look at this because I tell you something. Coindesk has been doing some really great work in this area. We have been covering heavily here that USDTether is a problem. This is Timothy Massad, former CFTC commissioner here. Listen closely. Listen very closely, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Except, Commissioner Massad, if Tether decides not to redeem, they're not legally forced to redeem because they're unregulated. So if they say, look, you guys want to redeem, your Tether for dollars, we don't have to give it to you. I mean, that's kind of been an accusation floating around for a while that they're not redeeming. So could there be a run on something if you can't redeem it?
But then what happens with other stable coins? What happens with the lending arrangements that have grown up around Tether? What happens then to the Bitcoin market because of the interactions between Tether and Bitcoin? You know, there's twice as much trading of Tether than there is of Bitcoin. And if those things start to happen, you know, what happens to Ethereum and other things when people get very nervous about the whole sector? These things escalate very quickly.
No one's ever gotten into the crypto market saying this is a safe bet and it's not volatile. I mean, that's sort of was.
So is that all of a sudden reason that Tether doesn't have to show the reserves in a proper fashion? What kind of reporting's going on at Coindesk?
Not what they've been doing.
Well, that's fair enough. But, you know, when you start to have a market this big, 2 trillion plus overall in the crypto market, there can be consequences to, you know, the broader financial system that we don't want.
And there you have that. I think I'm going to go with Timothy Massad on that one, right? You know, I think the adults in the room heard what's going on in that conversation. This Tether thing is not over yet. And I couldn't help but share this from DJ Peter Vass. Give him a follow. He says, that's it. We're all done if he thinks of this idea. The earth is a security. You know, oh my goodness. Oh, you know, what else can you do in times like this? You just well laugh, right? You just well laugh. What is it? But I tell you something. All of this isn't for nothing, okay? And we're about to see some evidence of that in the United States as well as these other 2 places we're going to take a look at, which is the rest of the world. The EU publishes text for Basel III crypto rules for banks. Now, we know what they are, right? That's when we covered this a while ago where it came out a month or so ago. It confirms that banks are expected to treat crypto assets with a 1,250% risk weighting as an interim measure until detailed legislation is implemented. That's what's going on, and that's where we're at here. They're getting very close in the EU, but that isn't all. According to Reuters, the G20, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we've been watching very closely here, whose members account for 90% of the world's gross domestic product and 80% of international trade, is looking at whether it could create a regulatory framework for crypto assets. I encourage everyone to know that it's been done. The reason I say that is because we've covered the PDFs and the reports from the G20, the Financial Stability Board, the BIS. They're not confused about where this is going. When they start publicly showing you their hand, it's because they've already decided they're going to lay down their cards. Or at least that's my perspective on it, not financial advice. But looking into this very quickly, it's not long, so let me give you this the way it is. India, which currently holds the G20 presidency, has already introduced a bill to regulate cryptocurrency market in the country. India's finance minister says member countries need to discuss whether or not crypto regulation is necessary, considering the sophisticated technologies involving the nascent asset class. And listen to this. We're talking to all nations that if it requires regulation, then one country alone cannot do anything. We are talking with all nations if we can make some standard operating procedure which is followed by everyone to make a regulatory framework, and if it can be effective. No one single country can succeed individually being in a silo and trying to regulate crypto assets. We need to have members of G20 come on board to see what's best needed or best needs to be done. And you know what? This is where they start having the talk at the meeting and going, well, country A, country B, country C are on, but country D, E, and F said, well, we're not so sure about what you want to do there. And then you start getting into conversations that say, you know what? We know that your country needs a lot of wheat or corn or oil. How about you do it anyway, or we stop sending that stuff to you? That's what they call negotiations in the big world, right? There we go. That's how you get it done. I'll tell you another little indicator that's showing me very clearly that the U.S. is absolutely going to get into this game. And it has been waiting because it is the largest economy in the world. And it knows once it goes, everything goes. And it can't go until last because it is the biggest one on the block. Don't believe it, it's still true. President Joe Biden has selected his top economic advisor by naming digital dollar advocate Federal Reserve Vice Chair Lael Brainard for the role, ladies and gentlemen. It is not a small matter. Furthermore, Brainard will be replacing outgoing NEC director, and this is Brian Deese, who was in the position prior. The move will place her alongside the not-so-crypto-friendly former Fed official Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, because she doesn't know what's going on, but Lael Brainard does. Lael Brainard took office as vice chair of the board of governors, Federal Reserve, May 23rd, 2022. It says Biden administration is battling with inflation and the run-up into his election campaign. It says Brainard will play a pivotal role in the economic policy admitting legislation. Remember, Michael S. Barr, also vice president of the Federal Board of Governors, very, very astute to what's going on in the world of digital assets, former Ripple advisor, former U.S. Treasury official, helped architect Dodd-Frank Act, which birthed the FSOC committee, which can deem things systemically important. All of this is leg bone connected to the knee bone, right? That's what we're talking about here. Lael Brainard testified before the House committee in May of 2022 on the benefits and risks of CBDCs at the time, but also need for clear guardrails, as well as understanding that a digital dollar could in fact coexist with stablecoins. We also know that the catastrophe of Luna and Galaxy Digital and FTX and everybody else since has caused more aspersions on the market, but a clarity will be brought to the situation because I believe that's why she was put in the role to begin with. I want to leave you this from playing XRB here, and this is an older clip with Brian Brooks talking with Jeremy Allaire from Circle. Remember, those two worked together at Coinbase on what they both said in the early days was one of the most important projects, working with Circle on USDC when Brian Brooks was chief legal officer of Coinbase before becoming the OCC chair. Listen to what he says here, and I believe this is why we're seeing all the activity globally from the EU, the G20, position moves in the US for solving this problem right here.
You know, the problem with the internet today is there are a lot of cool apps on your phone that you can use to transact value, but because they're not internet native, they're not interoperable with each other. Exactly. So, for example, Jeremy, if you have Zelle on your phone and I have Venmo, and that's all we have, we can't send money to each other. It's a weird closed loop. Even if we both have Zelle, we are still depending on the clearing bank clearing that transaction with each other. Versus in a fully open system, you know, kind of like in the way that my Gmail and your Hotmail can communicate with each other.
SMTP or HTTP.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. And the way that we know this is what's inevitably coming is look at the major payment systems that have arisen just in the last 10 years. So take Stripe as an example. There's a reason why most internet startups choose to use Stripe as their payments platform as opposed to using a bank.
And there you have that. That's where we're going. I believe that's why we're seeing those shifts in the EU getting ready to pass regulation, because cryptos that are volatile, that are not really payment oriented, are going to be treated much differently than the protocols and the value protocols out here that can actually move value the way people move emails. We're getting closer, ladies and gentlemen. And this is getting fun. Even in a crypto winter. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives.